I can finally fire a loser like you. You're incompetent trash and you're fired. I was helplessly forced to resign, tormented by a boss who twisted her beauty into something devilish as she laughed. My name is Michael. I work for a subcontracting company for a publishing house, struggling through another packed schedule today. I don't get hospitalized anymore, but as a kid, I had frequent asthma attacks and couldn't let go of my inhaler. During attacks at night, I couldn't lie down to sleep without endless coughing and breathing difficulties, so I just propped up some pillows and pretended to sleep. There was no rest for me. As a child, I would plaintively tell my mom, "Mom, it's too hard to sleep." Despite it being a usual attack, my mom would patiently stay by my side. "That stuff, Michael. I'll read you a book until you can fall asleep." She would pull all kinds of books from my dad's study and read them to me. Old picture books, encyclopedias about animals and space, and sometimes novels that were too hard for a grade schooler. Thanks to that, even though I was terrible at physical education, I excelled in other subjects. Those sleepless nights weren't just about suffering for me. My dad was an avid book collector and would happily listen to my eager book reviews. "Michael, you're great for an elementary schooler. If you like Mark Twain, try reading Ernest Hemingway." Ernest Hemingway is long. Well, maybe by the time you're in middle school, I'm looking forward to it. My dad passed away when I was in the 6th grade due to pancreatic cancer. It was too late when we realized it. Life became harder, and I spent my 3 years of middle school watching my mom work hard every day. "I went to work after middle school," I said. Mom replied, "Don't be silly. You're smart like your dad. I'll make sure you can go to college." But I didn't want to burden her anymore. So, we compromised that I would work after high school. During those tough times, we decided to sell most of Dad's books. It was sad to see the empty bookshelves, but letting go of the books didn't erase the memories with my parents. During high school, I worked part-time jobs non-stop to help my mom. I was pretty proud to be able to buy my own phone with my earnings. But my inherited love for books from my dad always got the better of me, and I'd often find myself about to buy interesting new releases at the bookstore. Hardcover novels are kind of expensive. Not something a high schooler with just an allowance could afford many of. When that happened, I'd reserve them at the local library. I might have to wait a bit for new releases, but hey, reading for free is awesome. One day, while making my regular library trips during breaks from work, I noticed this guy who was always there at the same time, reading the newspaper in the same spot. He dressed casually but had this unique sense of cleanliness with his crisply ironed slacks. He seemed about the age my dad would be if he were still alive. Our eyes met once when I was looking at him. He was a friendly man and struck up a conversation. "You come here often, don't you? Borrowed any new books?" "Yeah, you're always reading the newspaper. Don't you read books?" He told me it was his morning routine to read the newspaper and then a novel. Not many kids at school read print media, and my mom is so busy that we often miss each other. I was thrilled to finally have someone to share my love of reading with. He was really surprised to find out I was still in high school. "You're quite mature and quick-witted." I was impressed. "Aren't you young to be reading that book?" Turns out, he had already checked out the new mystery novel I just borrowed and was happy to discuss it with me. It was super interesting. It's by a new author, but I bet it'll win an award. Our conversations reminded me of the times with my dad, and he seemed to enjoy our book talks, treating me like a younger buddy with a shared interest. This continued until I graduated high school. Back then, I dreamed of working at a prestigious publishing house, but job hunting was tough. The big publishing houses I admired prioritized educational background for fresh graduates and exceptional experience for mid-career hires. We didn't have the savings for me to go to college. I sent out countless resumes and shared my passion, but kept getting rejected. It felt like a personal denial after a while. Frustrating and disheartening. I wanted to be an editor, supporting authors and helping bring more exciting stuff into the world, but reality was harsh. Sometimes passion alone isn't enough. Finally, I broadened my search and met Thomas, the CEO of my current company. A small subcontracting company where even the CEO gets involved in interviews. But the CEO was a humble and good person. He took pity on me after my numerous rejections and offered a trial period, with the promise of a full-time position if things went well. It wasn't exactly the dream, but having a decent salary helped ease our family's financial strain. Mom doesn't have to cram in as much work now and even put on a little weight. Thomas occasionally brings snacks to interact with the employees. Michael, how are you settling in? Our print shop is small and busy, right? No way, I love it. I've always wanted to work with bugs. A colleague repeatedly said, Michael is really doing a great job. His work is meticulous, and it's nice to have a good kid like him around. Thomas seemed pleased with the way things were going at the workplace. It was a physically and mentally demanding job, but all my colleagues were nice people, and I thought I was lucky to have such a good workplace. But back then, I had no idea what was coming. 4 years after I joined a company, Thomas brought someone he wanted everyone to meet, his own daughter, Rachel. She was a beautiful lady, dressed in a navy blouse and a lace pencil skirt, looking every bit the capable office worker. She just graduated from college. I may sound like a doting father, but she's my daughter. I'm sure she'll do great here too. But don't hold back just because she's the boss's daughter. Everyone, please be nice to her. Rachel bowed gracefully. I look forward to learning from all of you. Rachel was quick to pick up the work and delivered much faster than required by her clients, boosting her performance rapidly. My colleagues joked, she's really good at her job. At this rate, she'll outpace us soon, and true enough, she became a manager in no time. After Rachel became a manager, Thomas seemed completely reassured and stopped coming to the workplace. That's when Rachel started showing her true colors. Sometimes she'd scold her subordinates, saying, "Why are the deadlines always late? Don't tell me you're slacking off under the guise of external meetings." Other times she'd harshly criticize, "Who made this estimate? I'll redo it. If you can't handle it, don't add unnecessary work." The workplace atmosphere grew progressively worse. One by one, my colleagues who had fought alongside me for 4 years left, and before I knew it, I was the only one who knew Rachel from her early days. The team have completely changed. They were all kind-hearted and diligent people, capable of better treatment elsewhere. I went to work each day trying my best not to show the gloominess I felt inside. Once, Rachel pointed out to me, saying, "You look so gloomy, you're bringing down the mood." Since then, I've been desperately trying to stay on her good side to avoid becoming a target of her bullying. Clients started to worry, asking, "Michael, are you okay? You seem to have lost a lot of weight," and giving me puzzled looks when the number of accounts I managed suddenly decreased. The workload, which was already heavy, started to weigh down on both me and Rachel. Even as people left, the work didn't decrease. Driven to keep Rachel out of my mind, I started working with intense determination. And finally, I reached the top in sales performance. As I was dragging my exhausted body home one day, Rachel called me in. "Michael, can I have a word with you?" What could it be? Had I made a mistake at work? I had been so careful not to upset Rachel recently. I can't think of any reason for being called in. With an uneasy feeling, I went to see her, only to be told, "You know, I wouldn't mind dating you." Incredibly, I'm being confessed to by Rachel. I can't make sense of it. What? I mean, I'm willing to date you. You're always looking at me, and you talk to me more than any other employees. I thought maybe it's time I reciprocated. Her attention was because she was difficult to deal with, and my talking to her was to keep the peace, not because I liked her. Was she not aware of how much her juniors feared her? If you date me, even someone with a low educational background like you could climb up the career ladder, aren't you lucky? I heard about your struggles in a single-parent household, and how you barely got into this company thanks to my father's kindness. On the other hand, I became a manager soon after joining an elite. Honestly, someone like me is too good for you. I couldn't believe she was saying this to someone she was considering dating. I thought she might be playing hard to get, but I can't find her even remotely cute. I firmly declined. Rachel, when did I ever say I liked you? Well, that's the impression you gave with your behavior. I just want to get along with everyone at work as colleagues. I've never seen you as a romantic interest. Sorry if I gave you the wrong idea. Rachel was frozen, clearly not expecting to be turned down. It's awkward to reject someone you don't like. Anyway, see you at work tomorrow. I hurriedly left the office, eager to escape the awkward situation. From the next day, Rachel's excessive harassment began. Once, when I returned from an outside meeting, I found my desk completely soaked in water. The fabric of my chair was even stained. It was hot outside, wasn't it? I made it cooler for you. Really, what is she, a high school girl? On another day, the estimate I had finally completed was missing from my computer, and the sample of the magazine we were supposed to deliver was found in the shredder. I suspected Rachel's doing, but there was no proof. I worked all night to finish everything and managed to deliver just in time. Rachel said, "So you've finally delivered. Incompetent people really have it tough. Be sure to thank the lenient client." She taunted me insincerely. Moreover, she kept piling on overtime work, saying, "Since you can't do your job like others, can you work a bit more? You're stealing a salary, aren't you?" Ever since the day of her confession, it was clear that I was her target for harassment. Perhaps thanks to that, her treatment of other employees, like saying "good job, I'll take it from here," seemed to improve somewhat. Thinking that my sacrifice was protecting my juniors, just as my colleagues who had left asked me to, made it more bearable. However, the office girls, scared by her previous behavior, flinched even at normal words of encouragement. One of them bowed apologetically to me and left the room. Seeing this, Rachel clicked her tongue at me. Whether underperforming or overperforming, I was always subjected to her sarcasm, and the overall sales performance was declining. Even if Rachel and I were doing well, it wouldn't sustain the company. I wondered if it was time to report her behavior to the CEO. Then, one day, an even bigger problem arose. Our printing company had two major clients. One was a major women's magazine, Apple Sapling Publishing. The other was the prestigious William Buckstaw, known for its serious publications. I got a furious call from Apple Sapling saying, "The magazine we were supposed to receive still hasn't arrived." Put Michael on the phone. Somehow, I was listed as the responsible person. I had no recollection of taking on such a task, but after their insistence, I had to apologize. I apologized profusely for a mistake I didn't remember making. But they ended the contract, saying, "We will not be doing any business with your company in the future." How did things end up like this? Feeling empty, I was heading back to my desk when Rachel stopped me. Rachel twisted her beauty into a sinister smile. "You've really done something terrible, haven't you? Ruining such a big contract. You're not fit for this company." "I don't understand what you're saying." "Don't understand. There's no place for you in this company anymore." Rachel seemed to be enjoying herself way too much. Now I understand. This whole thing was her doing. But I don't have any evidence right now to accuse Rachel of her misdeeds. She went to such lengths, causing trouble for another company, just to corner me. I can finally fire a loser like you. Incompetent trash like you are fired. I'm sorry, Thomas. I'm just too tired. Fed up with everything, I decided to resign. After submitting my resignation, I spent my days lazing around at home for the first time in a while. My mom, noticing my weight loss, kept trying to feed me more, and I had to be careful not to gain too much weight. It seems she used the money I sent to restore my father's book collection, and the bookshelves were lively again. Reading while drinking in my dad's chair during the day felt like a luxury. The Ernest Hemingway books, which seemed long when I was in elementary school, now had a deeper flavor. One day, I got a call from an unknown number. I ignored it, thinking it was a scam, but it kept calling day after day, so I finally answered. It was Rachel. You finally picked up, Michael. Listen. Rachel sounded exhausted even over the phone. She explained why she called. Apparently, the chairman of the last major contract we had threatened to cut ties if I left. If we lost that contract, the company would go bankrupt, so she wanted me to come back. Who are you, Michael? I had no idea you had such connections with major clients. I didn't understand it myself. I was reluctant to go back to the company I had quit, but I hadn't properly said goodbye to Thomas and my juniors, so I reluctantly went with some gifts. After greeting my juniors, I headed to the reception room. There I found Thomas, Rachel, and, to my surprise, that old man from my high school days. Michael, this is Chairman William, the chairman of William Bookstore, who we always rely on. You seem to know each other. William, now revealed as the chairman, was as cheerful as ever. It's been a while, hasn't it, Michael? I think it's been 5 years since we last met face to face. William, you seem well too. I had no idea you were the chairman of William Bookstore. Well, I never mentioned it. I just wanted to be friends with you as a fellow book lover. As you get older, and more important, it's hard to make new friends. Rachel looked astonished at my familiar interaction with the chairman. Why would someone like you know William? She seemed to want to say that. Thomas joined the conversation. Michael, as you might have heard from Rachel, William values you highly. He even said he would terminate the contract if you aren't the point of contact. Would you consider coming back to our company? We really need you. Thomas lowered his head. William also inquired why I suddenly left. Does Thomas not know about Rachel's misdeeds? I'm flattered by your offer, but did anyone tell you why I resigned? I heard from Rachel it was for personal reasons. Your mother is unwell, right? I understand it's a difficult time, but what do you think? It's all fabricated. Any small sense of obligation I had left was gone. The reason I resigned was because I couldn't tolerate Rachel's misdeeds. You're unaware of her usual behavior, aren't you? Everyone's been enduring it, but many have been driven to resignation. The recent Apple Sapling Publishing incident was blamed on me, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I really can't think of returning. Rachel spoke gently. Michael, please stop making accusations. The incident the other day was resolved thanks to you apologizing to the client. I understand you're upset about ruining the deal with a major client, but Thomas and William looked confused. I felt helpless, unable to prove Rachel's misbehavior. Then, there was a knock on the door. Their office girl, who had been victimized by Rachel, entered. She placed a voice recorder on the table and played it. The recording was of Rachel's shrill voice berating her subordinates. How long are you going to dawdle? If you can't do your job, I'll fire you. If you don't like how I do things, then you should just resign. What do you think you are? A lowly educated poor person? Rachel turned pale. The girl continued. This is how Rachel usually behaves. Actually, all of us who were victimized were gathering evidence to accuse her. But these past few months, Michael has been protecting us from Rachel. Even Michael was forced to leave in such an unfair way. It's absurd that Rachel remains unapologetic and has the audacity to summon Michael back. Thomas couldn't hide his surprise at the numerous pieces of evidence. I was amazed that the juniors had united and planned such a thing. It seemed that my complaints had finally been acknowledged as true. I'm glad you understand, but I have no intention of returning to the company." The CEO genuinely apologized. "Michael, I'm truly sorry for not stopping my daughter's rampage and for all the trouble until now. What should I say to apologize to the employees who left?" That's when William spoke up. "By the way, Michael, have you decided on your next job? If not, how about working as an editor at our company?" William mentioned that among all the similar subcontractors, he chose to work with our company because of my work performance. "I never imagined I would be invited to work at a major publishing house, a dream of mine, in such a circumstance." He had been investigating who was behind the precise support his staff praised, and soon realized it was the boy he had interacted with at the library. The chairman remembered that the books we had excitedly discussed back then had become bestsellers, and he had been asking his employees to keep an eye out for my next bestseller predictions. He was now confident in my judgment. "Ever since then, you've had talent and character. That's why everyone wants to help you. My employees were also worried about you. They were looking forward to when you would enter their industry, not knowing you were going through such a tough time. If you come to us, I think you'll be able to work more enjoyably than here, don't you?" Hearing William's high regard for me, Rachel burst into tears like a little girl. "Enjoyable work. Work isn't supposed to be fun. I have to be the best as the CEO's daughter, always surrounded by enemies. Even though I advanced faster and produced results more than anyone, no one appreciates me. It's so unfair. Why is it always Michael who is loved?" Thomas, as a father, gently patted his daughter's back. "Rachel, I may not have the right to say this after leaving you in charge of the field at such a young age, but listen, it's not just about achieving results. How you achieve them matters. If you can't cherish those around you, no one will cherish you, and there were never enemies from the start." Rachel's past behavior was inexcusable. The pain caused to colleagues who left because of her. The numerous losses inflicted upon the company. But was Rachel the only one at fault? I spoke my thoughts to Rachel. "Rachel, I still can forgive you, but I know when you were a newcomer, you worked harder than anyone and became a manager. You're an incredible person. That's why I'm sorry I couldn't admonish you as a subordinate. It's too late now, but I really wanted to be closer to you." Rachel, unable to speak, sobbed and after calming down, admitted all her wrongdoings and sincerely apologized. "I'm truly sorry for everything I've done. Honestly, I wanted to be loved by you, too." A month after this conversation, I'm being rigorously trained in editing by William himself. I'm back to busy days, but as William said, it's much more enjoyable than before. Chairman William, knowing me from the past, used a quote from some book. "Not all those who lack money are talented, but it's true that many talented people don't have money. I find it enjoyable to find and support such people." Soon after, I was able to bring 2 bestsellers into the world. They were books I proudly completed in collaboration with the authors, working hand in hand. The company I left reportedly went bankrupt. Thomas is using his savings to apologize to Rachel's victims. Rachel is starting from scratch in a completely unrelated company, helping with the family finances. I hope she faces her actions. While having coffee with the chairman, I quietly reflected. Despite everything that's happened, I think I've overcome my past for who I am today. I'm that happy to have my dream come true. The chairman replied with his usual cheerful smile. "Don't talk as if you've burned out. You're just starting. You rookie editor."